This week's weekly edit is about inherited items and sentimental items. Now, I want to say this from the start. It's not about being ruthless, okay? It's about being ready, and it's not about forcing decisions. We're going to take a little bit of a different tact this week. Many people, this is a really hard area. Inherited items, sentimental items. It's all a heartstreak thing often. It's emotion. It's not necessarily about space. There's a lot of layers here. I'm Narelle Chidwick. I'm a professional organizer, both in your life and your home. So welcome. The weekly edit is generated from questions that are put out by my subscribers each week. Me digging into little ways to help you at home. So I hope you find this really useful. You'll find back editions in my playlist here on YouTube. So enjoy. I love commentary. I love feedback, and I love hearing what you might be struggling with and what steps you're taking to ease overwhelm, reduce the clutter, and fundamentally live more with less. This channel is all about talking about your homes, your lives, whilst you have a little bit of a look into mine. So it's calm, realistic, and I actually think pretty kind. So if tackling some of these sentimental items is where you're at, well, I'm sure this is going to help you today to have a little bit of a rethink about those possessions. It's not about a right way and it's not about a wrong way. And all I want to say is you're not doing it wrong at all. You're human. Now let's talk about why these items feel different. There's a lot of emotion here. They can feel heavy. And this heaviness, I would say, is the invisible weight. They're not just objects. They're people. They're stories. They're memories. Memories also of life. And it's one of these things that I think fill up the chapters of the little stories that are our lives. And we're complex creatures, that's for sure. Now, very often, the decision is not about the individual item at all. It's sometimes about what we're perhaps afraid letting go might mean. A few things here. Am I being disrespectful? Am I going to regret it? By parting with that item, does letting go of that item mean that I'm letting go of them? If any of those things resonate, you're very much not alone here. You're welcome to share in the comments if this is something that you've experienced, even just a word or two. So let's talk about support, guidance, and safe spaces. This is something I support people with a lot. And what I've learned is this process needs safety before it needs decisions. And I want to be really clear about this. These are not someone else's decisions to make. My role is to never decide. It's to help create an environment to help containment and to create a calm, really secure environment where you can start to make these decisions about what's going to happen with these items in your life. Nothing needs to be rushed, and there is certainly no judgment. I believe that sense of safety really changes everything. And I've got a strap here of being in a holding pattern intentionally. It is one of the most important things that I want to share with you on this video. You are allowed to be in a holding pattern. No deadlines, no forced clarity, and certainly no, I should have made a decision by now. I know it sounds weird, but sometimes the most organized thing that you can do is to not make that decision right now. The decision will come, but it's okay to not have to decide on everything right now. So it is a decision, and it's still to come. Now, if that lands for you, let me know below in the comments. I do really enjoy getting them, and I do reply to them. Now let's look at storage as a relief, but also as a responsibility. When we are not ready to decide, containment, the storage of it, really does make a difference. creating defined spaces. Now, it could be an entire room, it could be a storage unit, it could be a garage, it could be the loft, it could simply be one shelf, one box. Your scale is very different to the next person's scale, but it's yours. And understanding and really seeing the volume from furnishings to possessions to artwork to trinkets to historical memories. It's looking at the whole volume. So by having these items in a very defined area, this allows those emotions just to quiet a little. Allow them to rest rather than carrying the weight of those things every single day. One suggestion is how you label these items. Label them very clearly. This creates some actions and allows your brain to start thinking about when and how they're going to be processed. So we're going to label using an emotion as well as the practical side of things. It may be that sentimental items, where you simply can't make a decision on yet, are labeled sentimental items, no decision yet, and dated. Items for sale, contact an auction house, that's just an idea. Inherited items, decide later. Now, the decide later, really make a point of thinking how far you want to kick these things down the road. The revisit later, is without putting a date on something. Time can just disappear before we know. Now, when you work with me, there's a whole series of ways to combat labeling, that's for sure. And you probably have your own way as well. The beauty of labeling something is that you don't need to go into the box. You don't need to be absorbed back into any form of emotions. You don't need to be thinking about what you've already thought about. You make a decision, you write it down, and you see it for what it is. And then when you come back to look at it, there's some elements of sort of binary focus around it. Believe me, it works. Storage can be incredibly helpful, but at the same time, it can become overwhelming. Just because we have space to fill doesn't mean it's the right thing to be doing to fill it. So it's worth asking yourself, how much space am I willing to allocate to this? Do I need to hire a space? Do I need to give up part of my house in order to hold it? And then the next prong, how long for? So if storage is something that you struggle with, you might want to share that too. It's a very common part of the problem. So revisiting these things, slow and steady and over time. This process doesn't have to have a deadline. Of course, there might be an element of you're going to be moving house. That's different. You might have some bills to pay. You want to release some of the money that might be within these items. That's okay. You can have deadlines. So let's say there's no hard and fast deadline. These gentle nudges to check in at different points in times make a difference to starting to weed out and to process. You might say you'll revisit that in 6 months. You'll revisit it in a year. So put that down. Mark that as an intention. So by going back to the labeling part, when I said write the date down when you made this decision, when you revisit it, that emotion might be slightly different. Now I'm working with a client at the moment and have been for 3 years, and we're taking a really steady and slow approach to the compassionate as well as responsible way of going through all of these items that they have inherited. And taking a sympathetic approach gives her time, it gives her space to breathe, it gives her space to reminisce, and most of all to cherish those memories that she has had. So the upshot of that is there is no volume target, there's no definitive finish line. That finish line we will obviously cross at some point in time, together or alone. But all of these sort of ebbs and flows and looking at items for the beauty of what they are is part of the process of parting with them as well. I really do feel this version of slow editing, especially when it comes to inherited and sentimental items, is a beautiful time for you to reflect on your life, on other people's lives, and enjoy those memories, because we can keep many, many things alive without the possession, the person. Yeah, it's a big thing. So that brings me on to the reframing of letting go or keeping. Letting go does not erase the memory, and keeping everything doesn't necessarily honor it. The goal isn't less, the goal is lighter. This topic of inherited items has come up every week in 2026, and I really hope that it's given you a little bit of insight if you are tackling these things yourself. As always, the Organised Edit way is breaking it down, really starting slow, those bite-sized wins that you can make a difference at. Survey all of it and compartmentalize into different categories where you've got space and scope to be able to address them. Get support, whether that's from friends, families, professionals. It really does lighten the load. And sharing emotions and memories is a beautiful bonding scenario. Now, if there's something you would like to explore in the future weekly edit, you're very welcome to leave that in the comments too. But each week, I will also ask you on my social channels. I hope by watching this, it's given you a little bit of permission that it's okay to slow things down. It's a really, really big area. Slow down a little bit about the requirement to make these decisions at a really, really fast pace. It's just a bite size of how to tackle it, and I really hope that it's helped you. So thank you very much for joining this week's weekly edit. I look forward to hearing from you soon. If something resonated, again, please let me know. I'm Narelle, I'm from the Organised Edit, and as always, thank you. See you next week.